But yeah, anyway, I'd like to welcome you to, actually, what episode are we on? We're on episode 7 of the How to Kick It podcast. I'm your host, Andrew James, and today we have a very special guest. Her name is Mirka. I'm going to try on the last name, Suomäki.
Yes, you've done well.
Maybe it'll get a little more fluid over time. So,
yeah.
Just like many guests on the podcast, Mirka and I we met in Bali. A lot of history here, a lot of experiences shared. But yeah, let me open the floor up to you. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm from Finland. I am 26 years old, and I'm at the moment in Australia, where I have been almost for 3 years now. And yeah, I've been traveling for a while. And what else can I say?
That's fine. So you've been in Australia for 3 years. Has the pandemic made that stay longer, or has it changed anything on what your initial plans were?
I wanted to stay in the first place when I came here, I was like, okay, I want to stay for longer. But it definitely has changed things because I am not able to go home or not able to go anywhere else at the moment. So because of the borders are being closed. So yes, it has changed the plans.
Yeah. Is it a complete lockdown in Australia? Like nobody's allowed in or out?
No. Where I am in Queensland, in Gold Coast, it's we live quite freely here. But I guess it's just that they don't want to allow people from other countries in, so they wouldn't bring COVID here, because we've had really good year here. So yeah, I guess they're protecting just the whole Australia from having the same situation as in Europe or in USA or other countries.
Yeah. I'm currently in Canggu in Bali right now, and it is like full lockdown. There's a 8 p.m. curfew. There's police on the street checking where you're going.
Wow.
They're checking for vaccine cards. They're checking for PCR and antigen tests. They're doing everything.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I guess there was some compliance issues early on, and they're just trying to let people know that they're serious and that, they want to do everything they can to put this behind them. I think there's like a big Moderna vaccine shipment that came to the country. I don't know who sent it, if it was Europe, America, Australia, but yeah, they sent a bunch of Moderna, so people are kind of excited that we can start progressing towards some normalcy.
Yes.
Yeah, I've also had some friends out here that got the AstraZeneca vaccine. So things are happening and things are progressing. I don't know how long it's going to be, just like anything else. Everything's up in the air. Yeah, it's a day-by-day situation. But yeah, so Australia, obviously that's not Finland. That's a very different place. No. So how did you find yourself, interested in going to Australia? Was that something that came up when you were in Finland, or is that something you kind of thought about during some of your travel time?
That actually came up when I was in Bali, and I kept meeting these people who was like, yeah, I just came from Australia. I did a working holiday year there, and I was like, starting to get interested in what is this working holiday. And I talked with a lot of people, and I had some people that I knew that I was doing it as well. So that got me thinking, like, maybe I can move to Australia for a bit after all. Mm-hmm. And especially for being in Bali for a long time. And I got into surfing, and I loved surfing. So I thought I want to live somewhere warm by the beach where I can continue the same lifestyle. And yeah, so that's how I ended up here.
And that was 3 years ago now.
Yeah, that was 3 years ago.
Wow. So how long is the working visa? Because I thought it was 2 years, but again, it's not something I'm super familiar with.
So you can, first you come and it's for 1 year. And if you do a farm work that you do 88 days of working in the farm, you can extend it for 2 years. And in your second year, you can extend it by working 6 months in a farm for 3 years, or then you can change a visa to, for example, I'm studying now at the moment, so after my second year I went into student visa, and now I'm on that.
Oh, okay. What are you studying?
I'm studying to be a yoga teacher.
No way. That's
yes.
great. Awesome.
I love it. So good.
I definitely practice yoga, but I have no aspirations to become a yoga teacher. There's about a billion of them in Bali right now, but
yeah,
that's really cool. Exciting stuff. So tell me more about this this farm work. So 88 days of farm work. What did you have to do? Did you have to pick fruit and vegetables, or how did it go?
I found this place. A guy back home that worked with me in the same restaurant was talking about this farm that he was in back like a few years ago when he was in Australia. So I got the information from him, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna contact this one. And before I went to the farm, I heard so much horror stories, how bad it is and all that. But I thought for a bit, like, should I go or should I just go back to Finland and continue my life there? But then I had a friend who went there first, and she was like, it's not too bad, just come. I was like, okay. And I ended up being in a ginger farm, which, and I work in a factory, so I didn't have to go outside to pick the ginger. I just was washing it and cutting the seeds in the factory. And yeah, for 3 months, every day waking up 5 o'clock in the morning, going to the factory for, was it 7-8 hour days?
Wow.
Machines are so loud that you cannot even speak to each other. So, and you can only listen to music or podcasts with one, what is it? Earphone?
Oh yeah, only one earphone.
And yeah, it was quite an experience, but I feel like I got lucky when I compare it to the other people's stories that I've heard, because some people work in the heat outside. It's like 40 degrees Celsius hot, and yeah, so my experience wasn't that bad after all. It was pretty good.
As somebody who's never done any farm work, I mean, waking up that early and being in a loud factory, it sounds a bit intimidating at first.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we lived in the same house with a lot of international people. Like, everybody was young, and it became like big family, and it was kind of fun in the morning to go together to work, and we were always laughing and throwing ginger at each other. It was like, it sounds bad when you first like, I was at the factory doing this and that, but then all the people around, like, who we were living with, made the experience good.
Right, because you're all in it together. You're all going through the same struggles.
Yes, and exactly.
It's like you can either have fun doing it or you can be miserable doing it, but the job still has to get done.
Yes, and the place where we were, is one of the most beautiful areas in Australia, close to Noosa in Sunshine Coast. So we had like 20-minute drive to the beach and to the beautiful little town. On the weekends, we can go to little festivals and like go have dinners and all that stuff. So if I think back, that was like one of the most funnest time I've had here in Australia, actually.
Yeah. I've heard that before, like some of the most grueling or difficult times when you're a bit younger, sometimes are just like the most memorable. So obviously, like most of the people in Australia are Australian, but it sounds like everybody on this farm doing their 88 days, it was a whole international community, huh?
Yeah, most of us were international.
Yeah. Was it just a mixed bag, or was there like predominantly more like Germans or Finnish people? Like, who was in your community?
I was the only Finnish people. There was a lot of French people, a lot of a lot of German, like mid-European, few of them like Scandinavian, a lot of Italians as well, and yeah, it was quite mixed punch.
That's good. It's nice to have a diverse group of people because, you think you have a good understanding of the world, and then you hear people's opinions and perspectives from different parts, and you're just like, oh, wow, I never thought of it that way. Or, you see a different perspective.
That's the thing, hey? And I feel like the more you meet people with different kind of mindsets and perspectives, the more you like helps you understand and helps you be like more compassionate, more understanding, and yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. So 88 days of farm work. What was day like 87 like, or 88? You know, when you were kind of coming to an end. Obviously, probably there was like a mix of emotions. You're probably like, thank God I get out of this factory. But
yes.
on some level, it was like time to move, right?
Yes, it was. I was definitely ready at the end of the 88 days. I was so ready to leave, but also it was sad to leave all the people there, and like there was a lot of times when one of the group, like one person from the group left, and everybody was saying bye outside and crying and all emotional, and yeah, so it was like end of an era, if you could say.
Yeah. Did it kind of, because it goes quick, you know, 88 days. I mean, obviously, maybe it feels longer in a factory, but so like on day one, you know, you're the new person, you don't know how anything works, you're asking people for support and help maybe, or like, how do you do this? And then you're in day 80, and now you're kind of the senior, right? So there's new people coming in, and you're telling them how it works, and you're kind of saying, hey, don't worry, like you'll get through it. Did you feel that progression over time, or like what was the biggest change for you from day 1 to day 80?
I feel like it got easier at the end, because in the beginning, yeah, you have so many questions. Am I doing it right? Like cutting a ginger, there's a way doing it too. So stressing about, am I doing it right? Oh my God. And how slow the time goes, and you kind of learn to entertain yourself. You're standing there alone, listening to something, or just your thoughts. And yeah, you learn to, it's also like really good for getting to know yourself, because you spend so much time just with your thoughts. So it got easier, but my hand got more soft.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You probably got stronger too, yeah? Strong grip.
Yes. Sometimes I woke up at night with my right hand from holding the knife so hard, being so sore. I was like, oh, Jesus, hurts.
Did you wear gloves during the process?
Yes, we wear gloves.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because your hands would like come out all like yellow and orange, right? If you didn't wear gloves.
Yes. Yes.
All right, so now I like this trend that we're going down. So what happens after day 88? You know, how do you figure out where you're going to go, where you're going to live, you know, if you're going to look for work? Like, what's the process like?
So I went back to the Gold Coast, to the area where I was living before, and my previous workmate was looking for a roommate, so everything happened really easily for me. So I just basically took my stuff, jumped in a car, and drove to my new place, and I was really lucky for that. But yeah, it can be, a lot of people take flights somewhere, different places in Australia, go to hostels, start to plan also what to do. But I feel like there's different kind of travelers also in Australia and how they do it. And I feel like I look for comfort a bit more. So I'm not the one who's traveling from hostel to hostel all the time and trying to experience as much as I can. I'm more like, I try to find a home base and then build like a comfortable, comfortable home base. And then from there I start to look, what can I do? So that's what happened again to me. And I went back to my old workplace where I used to work. And
what was that?
Yes.
What kind of work was that?
I've been working in hospitality as a waitress here. So,
cool.
Yes.
So, what are the expectations for the visa? I'm assuming the country doesn't want a bunch of flunkies just floating around, like, you know, doing nothing. They want you guys working. Is there a certain expectation set on the visa? Like, hey, you can stay for 1 or 2 years, but you need to be like working and paying taxes and things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you come to the country, you start to work, you have to have a tax file number, and a lot of different countries have different, like, for example, me as a Finnish person, it's easy for me to get a visa in Australia, but not everybody it is so easy. For example, Brazilian people cannot have the working holiday, so they can only come through the student visa. And yeah, so it's I feel like European countries, it's quite easy to come in, and depending on the relationship with Australia and certain country. But yes.
So Finland and Australia have a pretty good relationship?
Yes. So it was easy just to do an application online and get the visa right away, and then you just start fixing your bank account and the tax file number, and yeah, so that's how you get started. And
I think I've heard there's like an age limitation too, and is it like 33 or 35 where you can get a work visa for Australia?
It depends on the country as well. A lot of countries it's 30 years old, and then I feel like Ireland and Canada or some other countries, the limit is 35. So yes, there's an age limit as well.
Yeah, well, there's still hope for some people. I know there's some 20-year-olds that have been thinking about doing working holiday, and there's obviously like people in their 30s, and maybe there's still an opportunity to do it. It's a great way to explore Australia, and I know so many people who have done the working holiday, and I've heard from different ones that some of the farm working stuff has been super grueling. I've heard people that have had really easy experiences. It just depends on, what the need of the facility is, and if you just get lucky. But yeah, I hear you'll learn, like you said, learn a lot about yourself when you're doing farm work.
Yes, and there's as many stories as there's people, so everybody has a different experience, and it's crazy to meet people and hear their stories and be like, wow, I had it so different. And a lot of people, like how difficult situations a lot of people go through, and then still they push through and still do it, and
Yeah, I've from the stories I've heard from other people, like you get a sense of how tough and resilient some people are, and also some people I know, they've quit farms and went and tried to find something else that was that suited their abilities or mental capabilities. So obviously, after you've been there for 3 years, I'm assuming that there's something about Australia that you like more than one thing. So I mean, tell me about your experiences there and your time there. Like, what does your day-to-day look like? How do you pass the time? Are you still surfing? Are you still, like, traveling around and exploring Australia? Or do you feel more just kind of like a resident?
Well, at the moment, I live here in Gold Coast, where I've been most of the time. And I studied to be a yoga teacher in Byron Bay, so I drive there
How long is that
times
drive?
a week. It's like 1 hour drive, so 2 hours back and forth.
Oh, wow.
And I work on the side in hospitality, so my life has been this year. I started to study this year, so it's been very busy. Not so much time for traveling or going anywhere else for, so... Yeah, my days, usually now that I have day off, I'm lying in the sun in the backyard. It's winter here, so anytime the sun's out, I'm out.
Right,
and
it's winter.
Trying to be in the ocean as much as I can. I actually haven't surfed in over a year, hey, now.
No way. When I knew you in Bali, you were surfing all the time. That's when I would see you most, is out in the water.
I know, that's crazy, but the waves are different here.
You were with another Finnish girl, I think, a girlfriend of yours when you were in Bali. Quite a lot.
Yes, Sophia, yeah.
Yeah, how's Sophia doing? Where is she?
She's in Finland, actually. She's studying, and she actually surfs in Finland, so she's keeping it up.
Crazy girl. She wears a very thick wetsuit, yeah?
Yes.
My God.
Yes, it's crazy. And in Finland, there's basically surf only when it's really stormy, so I can imagine how hectic it is to battle out there.
Yeah, and the sky is probably all gray and scary.
Yes.
You know, the waves could be...
And the water is so dark.
Yeah, like honestly, I love surfing, but I like surfing in the sunshine. When it's gray in the sky and a little windy, it kind of freaks me out. I don't like the vibe. But
yes.
Yeah, well, you got to promise me.
You can see through the water.
Yeah, exactly. You want to be able to like see the bottom is nice. You got to promise me you got to start surfing again. You got to get back into it.
I know, I have to.
Yeah,
I have to.
I expect you to. So like Finland to Australia, that was never part of your master plan when you started like your trip to Indonesia. It was just through meeting people and hearing about their life out there that all of a sudden it became more appealing to you, yeah?
Yeah, and even when I came to Australia at first, my plan was to stay for a year and then maybe go back to Bali and see like where life takes me, maybe go Finland. But yeah, I'm still here after almost 3 years and I'm really enjoying it.
I hope so. I hope if you're there for 3 years, you're really enjoying it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I feel like the lifestyle is, I don't know, I haven't been back home in a long time, so I don't know, things could have changed, but I feel like here, the sunshine and the ocean and the people are so, wake up early and so active and positive, and I like the vibe around here.
Yeah.
In Australia, like Gold Coast area, and
yeah, it's hard to beat that. I grew up in California, and it's definitely infectious. Like sunshine, positive vibes. I spent a year in Hawaii, same kind of thing. I really think it changes people's attitude and perspective. So living in a cold, dark place and then going to Australia, it must feel, extra sunshine and extra positive vibes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes, it's so good.
Something that I talked, I think 2 podcasts ago with our guest Vanessa was about solo female traveling. And it was a topic that I was desperate to talk about because I get so many questions about it. And what was funny is that she gave me a very unexpected answer where she was like, yeah, don't really worry about it. I just go and, I just be as careful as I can, and that's about it. And I was just like, ooh, that's not really the answer I was expecting, but it kind of makes sense that somebody who's going to travel as much as she did, do the things that she's done, I don't want to say you don't care, but you kind of have to let certain things go, certain things that you can't control. If you want to see the world and go certain places, you kind of have to just, I guess, take a gamble or just hope for the best. And, what has been your attitude with this, and has it changed at all? Like from your first few holidays with your family to like your first holidays by yourself, and then more long-term travel living abroad, has security and safety and being a woman been kind of a main concern for you? Like how have you kind of navigated that aspect of your life?
Well, definitely when I was younger, I was more scared about anything that could happen. And when I was on my first holiday in Bali as well, I remember we were in Canggu and you couldn't get Uber or anything there. So we had to like hitchhike, back to our villa. So this guy took us, and he was like, he didn't speak much English, but we were like showing the address, and he was driving, and he was trying to tell us that he needed to stop somewhere, and we were going really like, it was a shortcut. Back in the days, there was not even tiles, and he was taking us somewhere, and I was like, oh my god, he's gonna like sell us to some human trafficking. I was so scared. I was like, what's going on? And I was texting my family like, if this is the last time you hear from me, oh my god. And at the end of the trip, he parked somewhere, and we looked around like, oh my god, where are we? And we were in front of our villa. So I was like, oh, thank god. And yeah, I definitely was more fearful when I started to travel, but I guess more and more things showed me that I shouldn't be worried. So I don't really even think about it that much anymore.
You just go for it.
Yeah, of course there's situations, and like you can kind of sense the vibe on if somebody approaches you, if it's in a good intention or bad intention. So I guess I just try to suss out like what's happening, and then I can decide if I stay away from the situation or,
Mm-hmm.
So you just have to trust your gut and intuition, and yeah. Well, I feel like I haven't had any bad situations happening to me, so I've been lucky, and I don't think there at the moment, or I don't know, there can be many opinions, but for me, I don't think, well, it is a scary place to travel as a woman.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, any decision and any place you go, it definitely falls on you. And like you said, trusting your intuition, going off your instinct. And obviously, like the more experience you have, you know, going on that scooter ride or finding yourself, I don't know, at a bar late night, you kind of have to assess and think back, you know, what have I done in the past? And obviously you've gotten this far in life, you know, without anything crazy happening. And I hope that trend continues. Yes. I have a very similar mentality as a man who's traveled independently, but I try to, if it's another guy, it's really easy. I'm just like, hey, just go for it. Trust your intuition. Like, you know, like you said, suss out the situation. But if I'm talking to a woman, a lot of times my opinion and my perspective is appreciated, and you know, they say thank you, but they also tell me that I just don't get it and that I won't ever understand exactly what it's like. I've mentioned this on the last podcast too, that like my mom also tells me that. She's like, you know, you have an idea of what it's like, but you don't really know. And I really try to be sympathetic to that. So a lot of times if I meet a young female traveler and they have questions, I'll answer them as best I can. But a lot of times I'll say, hey, I have a friend, you know, she's a few years older than you. She's done this trip that you're about to go on, or she's been to these places. Here's her contact. Maybe you can reach out to her and she can give you more of that female perspective. And honestly, even if she says the exact same thing that I would say, it carries so much weight.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's way better to hear it from, because you know, when you're a girl and you travel the world, it's crazy to say, but it is still, in today's like 2020, 2021, it's still different to be a woman than a man, and it definitely helps from a girl to hear that, okay, I can do it too, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, leading through example, seeing somebody else do it is super helpful, and it makes it more palpable and makes you think, you know, hey, if Mirka did it, then I can do it too. So I'm glad you're out there, and thank you so much for like coming on and sharing your experience. I hope there's some young female travelers or potential travelers that will take a lesson out of your book and just, you know, trust their intuition and trust their gut.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And stay safe.
And stay safe. Yeah, don't put yourself in tricky situations if you don't have to, but it's also good to stay open and you know, meet new people and explore, because you know, you might find yourself living in Australia for 3 years. You know, anything can happen.
Yes. Yeah. And if I think back, I've been in quite a crazy situations myself, you know, in Indonesia, like drinking and then going home and being in a vulnerable state, and nobody has tried to take an advantage of that in a bad way, or it has been enough that I say no and like show that. So it's like, at the end of the day, world is not that bad of a place that some people might think that it is. People are still respectful, and yes.
Yeah. I mean, I've mentioned this before also, is that a lot of times negative experiences and bad stories, like when something traumatic happens, those stories gain a lot of traction, and people will say and repeat those stories, and friends of friends will repeat those stories. But when you say like, oh, we went out to a bar and we danced and we had a nice night and we went home, that's a nice enough story, but like nobody's going to go repeat that and tell it around town or tell it around the community. But you're saying, like, oh, I got kidnapped by this scooter driver and he drove me really far away from where I was going and I had to jump off and run away. And like that's
that. Everybody's like, oh my god.
Yeah, that's a story you'll hear about more and more. So it's tough because it's so easy to remember the bad stories. It's so easy to share the traumatic stories, and we have to remember that most of the time, nothing really happens. Nothing traumatic happens. It's only sometimes, you know, things do happen. And obviously,
it's like,
yeah.
it's like the little percentage of what has happened, and then the story builds and builds. It's the same with the farm stories. Before I was going to the farm, and people were telling all these horror stories. This and this has happened, and I was like, oh my god, this is going to be the worst 3 months of my life. But then I got there, and I was like, oh, it's nothing, you know?
Yeah. Sometimes you just have to go see it from yourself. And like we talked about, trusting your intuition, sometimes you have to kind of get a read for somebody that you're talking to, because some people they kind of live in a cloud of negativity. They're not necessarily bad people, but they just want to gossip, and they just want to talk about, I don't know, things that I guess they find interesting, but it's not a real good example or demonstration of what's actually going on. So you kind of have to take everything with a grain of salt. And I know people who've come to Bali and Canggu and they hate it. I know people who've been to Australia.
Really?
Oh yeah, I know people who've been to Australia too, and they're like, oh, there's all these Aussies, all these Bogans. I don't have any interest. Yeah, and I'm like, you got to give it a chance. It's a huge place, and I think it says a lot more about the person than it does about the location.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so much about the attitude, how you see life. Like, if you have something to complain about everything, you're never going to be happy.
Yeah, exactly. You know, you got to control the things you can control and try to spread some positivity. It'll definitely come back to you. I mean, I hope that's the goal.
Yes.
So you also spent quite a bit of time, this is maybe like pre-Indonesia, in Central Europe and Eastern Europe. You said you did some backpacking and stuff around there?
Yes, I've done a little trip to Croatia and Montenegro.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like my first like proper traveling trip. So it was very exciting, and it was we had planned it in everything in such a short schedule, like 2 days here, 1 day here, and it was good to learn from that. Like never do that again.
Yeah.
But it was beautiful experience, beautiful country, Montenegro and Croatia, and yes, it was fun. First experience for like kind of backpacking.
I've heard so many good things about Montenegro. I hear the landscape is so dramatic. You'll be along the coast, and it'll be
unbelievable.
There'll be these little pockets where it's like really flat, kind of like a typical beach, and then it'll just go to like a huge cliff, like massive cliff sides.
Yes, and massive mountains with the snow tops, and then beautiful blue ocean next to it. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I really, really wanted to go there. I had plans to go there a couple years back, but did not find my way just yet. But it'll happen soon, I'm sure.
Yes, it'll happen once we get back to normal again.
Back to normal, whatever that means. It seems
I know.
It seems like vaccine passport kind of situation is becoming more realistic. Here in Bali, they've been checking vaccine cards and checking negative COVID tests. A lot of times
that's a bit crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not here to say anything good or bad about the Indonesian government. They're doing what they're going to do. I'm a guest in the country, so, you know, I can only say so much. But what is really striking is the fact that your flight or your ferry from island to island is cheaper than the cost of the test to get cleared to make the journey. So if you want to go anywhere, it's honestly like 200% more expensive than your flight. My flight from Lombok to Bali was about $15, but then my antigen or my PCR test was about €60. And then the ferry trip was only like $3 or $4, but the cost of my test was like $13 or $14. So,
wow. Do you have to get tested when you leave from Lombok and when you arrive to Bali, or just once?
Just when you leave. So you have a 3-day window to test. And to take the ferry, you only need an antigen test. And to fly by plane, you need a PCR test. And the PCR test takes about 24 to 48 hours to get results. So you have to plan with your flight and coordinate everything.
Wow.
It's not impossible. It just requires some patience.
Yes.
It requires some flexibility. and it requires a little extra cash. But other than that, you can kind of do what you want. But like I said, they just instituted a lockdown in Bali, so everything closes at 8. Nobody's allowed to be like moving around town after 8 p.m. unless you have a good reason and can prove it.
Wow.
All the cafes are only takeaway. Gyms are closed. Co-working spaces are closed. And it makes it really hard on the people. But I've said this before, it's a trade-off between what's good for the health of the communities, but then what's also good for the economy. And again, this is the government's decision. And if you're living in this country, if you're visiting this country, you're subject to their decision, and you have to follow through with that.
Yeah. You never would have known a couple of years ago that this life would be like this, hey?
Not at all. Not at all. And even when this whole thing was starting, people would joke about how intense it would get and say, oh, it would never get that bad. And depending where you are in the world, you have every scenario. You have places that have been super casual about everything. You have places that have been super intense, and it's just the way it is. And we're very adaptive people. People have been adapting and finding workarounds for everything, but hopefully we can find a common ground that everybody's happy and healthy. I just don't know how long that's going to be. I used to think it was going to be a few months. Thing, hey? Yeah. And now I'm thinking it might be a year more. I really don't know. It doesn't mean anything. I'm just throwing numbers out there. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. When everything started at the beginning of last year, I thought, oh, it's going to be a couple months, but I never thought that it would be still going on.
Yeah. Do you think you would have been back in Finland, or do you think you would have been back in Bali if COVID wasn't a thing?
I probably would be still in Australia, but I probably would have traveled to Bali and to Finland in between.
Right.
Yes, but I definitely would be still here.
Yeah. So do you have any plans for the future, or are you just kind of waiting to see how this whole pandemic thing plays out?
Well, my studies are going to take still for 6 another months. So I am going to stay here in Gold Coast, the Byron area, and hopefully do some traveling at the end of the year. I've done in Australia mostly the East Coast, from Cairns to Sydney. So I really want to see some of the West Coast or Melbourne or Tasmania or some of the places like that. So I have to start planning a little trip because we still can travel here inside Australia. And yes, we'll see where the life takes. I have absolutely no clue what's going to happen next year, so that's the thing.
Yeah, we're all in the same boat on that. I hear good things about Perth. I have friends that love Tasmania, but they said make sure to go in the summer, don't go in the winter, because if you go in the winter, there's nobody there.
And it's freezing.
Mm-hmm. That's like the edge of the world, Tasmania.
It is.
There's nothing more south than that except Antarctica.
And I've seen so many beautiful photos from there, so I'm excited to go sometimes and have a little look.
Yeah, you'll make it happen. Just a matter of when, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh man, you're making me think about travel, and it's I'm here in Indonesia on work right now. So it's been kind of a mix of trying to enjoy my time, but I've been just constantly work.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now with the lockdowns, the beaches are locked down as well. You can't go surfing. And again, there's yeah, I know, and the waves are good right now. I'm kind of bummed out.
Oh, that sucks. You cannot even surf?
No, you're not allowed to surf. I don't think. Somebody said if you go and you show them your vaccine card, maybe they'll let you on the beach, or if you go super early in the morning. But for the most part, whether or not you can or cannot, the energy and the vibe is not really supporting beach activities. Yeah.
I was listening to the episode with Emre, and he was talking about those times when you met at the farm hostel, and I was listening to it, and I remembered that I was thinking about those times, and I was like, oh my God, that was such a long time ago, but it feels like it was yesterday. And he was talking about his birthday, and he was I remember when he was telling me the story that he wanted to drink for 24 hours and our birthday is the same day, and he was sleeping on top of me on the bunk bed. So I was like, oh my God, I didn't even remember this.
I thought you guys met. You want to hear something funny? Is I just had coffee with him this morning.
Really? He's in Indonesia?
He's in Indonesia. He's been here for about 2 months. He's also here on a business trip. He's looking at different properties. He's trying to do kind of a fitness-related property, something to do with like yoga and I think even like
awesome.
Pole dancing workout stuff.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's totally different than the kind of business that we're getting involved in, but it's really cool. And him and I met at the farm, and we were I don't know 3-4 years younger. And now we're sitting down having coffee, chatting, and I'm just like, man, we're getting old. Like our attitude and our opinions and perspective on everything has changed so much. Yeah, like none of us are trying to drink for 24 hours. You know what I mean? But he was about
definitely.
Yeah, he was about 24 or 25 at the time, and that was when I first met him. Yeah.
Good times, hey?
Great times.
Such a careless times.
I know. I mean, so being in Canggu, a lot of the people I know here, we all met at the farm hostel, and it's going through some transition right now. It's obviously closed because of COVID, and so many people have just written about the farm, my time there.
I know. I think that's where we met too, hey?
Yeah, I think so. I think we didn't really get too deep. I think it was just kind of like, hey, how's it going? Saw you around kind of thing. And then I think you guys went and did a surf camp, maybe? I'm not sure. Yeah, and then I would see you out in the water with the surf camp and stuff like that. Yeah.
Shredding
the gnar, for sure. Yeah. So many people's relationship with travel and surfing a lot of times starts with a surf camp. They're like, I want to do something different. I want to take a holiday, but I also want to like learn a new skill. And then they do the surf camp and they're like, I could do this on my own. And then from there, they start, living in Australia or, looking at properties in Bali, and just life catapults through experience. So whoever's listening to this, go and do something outside of your normal behavior and go somewhere that you haven't been. And who knows what the future will hold for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's how it started for me too. I wanted to learn to surf, and I went to surf camp, and then I went to the farm, and I knew already how to get into water and do do the stuff. So yeah, that's how I started also. And it's such a good healthy activity. So good for you to be in the water.
Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of times people who don't surf have an opinion about it, good, bad, or in between, but they think it's either like a frivolous activity or that it's too difficult for them or it's too scary. But once you start doing it and you start learning about yourself and your capabilities, and if you catch a couple good waves, you'll just fall in love with it, and all of a sudden it doesn't become something that is so daunting and scary. It becomes something that is just part of your routine, and it's so good for the soul. And I love being in nature as well, just floating and looking at the beautiful landscape.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's not only just for the body and like getting fit and strong, and it's also so good for your what mental struggles you go through when you see a big bomb coming and you're like, oh God, what am I gonna do?
Yeah, we've all definitely been in that situation before. Before I let you go, I want to talk a little bit about Finland, because I think I know maybe 4 people from Finland, and a couple things that I know about it, obviously you know a lot more, is the capital city's Helsinki, right? Okay, let's see what else I know. And the country name, if you were to say it in Finnish, is Suomalainen, right?
It's Suomi, but Finnish, like Finnish person, is Suomalainen.
Finnish person is Suomalainen, and the country name is Suomi.
Yes.
It's so bizarre the first time I heard that, because you grow up as a kid in school looking at the map, and you got Sweden, Norway, Finland, and you're like, Finland, and then someone told me, oh yeah, it's called Suomi. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
How is that even close? Like, do you know how they get Finland in English from Suomi?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Does
be honest.
Does Swami have a meaning? Is there like a double meaning, or is it just that's just the name of the country?
I think it's.
It's okay if you don't know. This isn't a quiz.
To be honest,
it's not a test.
I think it's just the name of the country, but it might have a meaning.
Okay. Well, we'll do a little more
I feel like
research.
Going to the Google now and be like, what's going on?
I know, right? Yeah, like if somebody told me like what United States of America, like what it meant. I mean, I know what it means, but like where did the term America came from? It was actually a name of a person. America was like, I don't know if it was, I don't know enough. I forgot what I learned, but it's actually like somebody's name, America. So
wow.
I just found that out like a year ago, but obviously all the information didn't stick. So
yeah.
I saw, do you know who Anthony Bourdain is?
Is it the chef who passed away?
Yeah, exactly. He was the travel chef guy. He did pass away a couple years back. He's a big inspiration for this podcast. He's a big inspiration for me. 3 years ago when I left, I thought I was going to be gone for like 3 months, and I ended up being gone for 2 years. And so much of my motivation and interest in that came from him and his book, Kitchen Confidential, and then obviously like his TV shows and stuff. But he did an episode in Helsinki. He did an episode in Finland. And I remember, yeah. You should look it up. I think it's probably on Netflix or some of the other streaming platforms. But they did this thing where they went to like a Finnish massage place, and I think they had like leeches there. Is that something you know about?
No.
No, or maybe it wasn't leeches, but I don't know if they cut him and they put like it was like a massage, but they did like a little bit of cutting and like they kind of got blood out of his back. I don't know if you know any of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's not a common Finnish thing. Maybe it was just a weird place that he went.
Maybe it can be something, what the, for example, Sami people might have done, or like the indigenous Finnish, something like some old kind of way.
Yeah.
But I'm not familiar.
Maybe it's not so common. You're from Helsinki originally, or from another city? I'm from
Kemi, so that's in Lapland, in like really close to the border of Sweden.
How often would you go to Sweden?
Sorry?
How often would you go to Sweden?
Often, like every week. It was 30-minute drive, and there was like better candy and stuff like that, so we went often.
So I know people in Sweden. I don't know, actually, I forget if you go from Norway to Sweden or Sweden to Norway, but you go one direction or the other to buy alcohol because it's cheaper.
Sweden has cheap alcohol for sure.
So you go from Norway to Sweden. Do you go from Finland to Sweden to buy alcohol, or is alcohol also cheap in Finland?
Yeah, sometimes we went, but it's not that much cheaper that you would go often. But also the selection is different, so sometimes it was interesting to go like, oh, we have here.
Yeah, to mix it up a bit.
Yeah. But Finnish people go a lot, especially from the south. They go to Estonia because the alcohol prices are way cheaper there than Finland. Yeah.
Yeah. I have a new friend, Carlos, actually. He's going to be opening up a roastery coffee shop in Tallinn in Estonia.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I heard from many different, like, I wouldn't say travelers, but people who have lived and worked abroad. A lot of people are going to Estonia. They say the economy is really good for starting a new business. The tax is really complimentary if you're an entrepreneur. They also can give you like a visa for all of Europe, and the cost of living in Tallinn, Estonia is quite reasonable compared to the rest.
Yes.
Yeah. You've been to Estonia then? Yeah.
Yeah, I have.
Would you recommend it, or what is your experience there?
Yeah, I've only been in Tallinn. That's the capital city, but I think it's beautiful, and the food. They have such beautiful restaurants and so cheap to eat out, and yeah, there's definitely worth to visit.
Nice. They started an e-visa program for entrepreneurs and remote workers, Or if like you worked for a company and they let you work remote, you could get an e-visa through the Estonian, through this government organization, and essentially it gave you like a 2-year visa for Europe, and you just have to pay a little bit of tax to Estonia, but you can basically live wherever you want in Europe. I don't know if COVID has changed that at all, but I remember looking into it about maybe like 7-8 months ago, and it was still they were still hosting forums and like meeting events online, obviously not in person, where you could learn about it. Super interesting stuff, and I think definitely at some point in my life I definitely want to live in Europe, and so I might go that route.
Yes, and that's awesome that they made it like makes it easier for people to work for themselves and create what they want to, and that's awesome.
Yeah, give people the opportunity. Obviously it helps the government if they're able to collect tax and whatnot, but it's cool, just trying to make the world a little less complicated and trying to shrink it down. I remember when I first came to Indonesia, it was like one of my first stops. It felt like I was so far away from home, and it just felt like a lifetime away. And being back this most recent trip, honestly, it just feels like it's around the corner. It's like 2 days in an airplane that kind of suck, but I mean, it's not that far. It's as far as you mentally want to let it be. So if it's this, oh my gosh, I have to travel for 24 hours and airplane food and my 7-hour layover, or you can be like, I just need to kind of zone out for 24 hours and then I'll be where I need to be.
Yeah, relax.
Yeah, enjoy it. Maybe you'll meet somebody on the airplane, or maybe you'll read a few books and listen to a few podcasts. Listen to the How to Kick It podcast on your travels.
Exactly.
Get you all excited.
That's the perfect time to relax before you're new in the new country and all these new experiences. And it's all about that too. It comes all about the attitude. It's how you see it.
Yeah, it's your world to make. You literally can go anywhere you want to go, be anywhere you want to be. I always preface it. I know there are circumstances. I know there's work and money and family and age and gender and all these things. But I'm gonna kind of pretend like you're saying this, but it's like you can do whatever you want, no matter what gender you are, no matter what race you are. Like there are opportunities, because I've met people from just about every country, and some of them have had a harder time figuring out the money part or figuring out the time part, but people figure it out. And I come from one of the wealthiest countries in the world, and it's one of the countries that people travel the least from, at least for long periods of time. 2-week holiday, sure, but for someone to say, oh, I'm going to take 6 months off, right.
It's all about how you put yourself out there, and I feel like anything is possible for you if you decide to do it. Like, for example, let's say Beyonce, if she didn't make one song and become like big artist, you have to do many times, and if you feel like, oh, this is too hard for once, just try again and you will be able. Like, everything is about how you see things and how you perceive and what's your mindset about it. And
I heard something that like kind of, you are who you are at a certain age, and all your decisions are kind of irrelevant if you're not listening to, your intuition or that little voice or that energy that is guiding you somewhere, because you're inevitably going to end up wherever you're going to end up, but it's up to you to kind of feed into what resonates with you. Because if you like sports, or if you like travel, or if you like food or people, you should go with that. If there are things that you enjoy, lean into that direction, because you'll find so much more fulfillment. Where, at least in my country where we come from, it's like money. Like it'd be really nice if I could find a career that I enjoyed and I made money, but it's like I really need to check off this financial box before I can start looking at what my interests are. And that's not a bad way to live life. It's just the way people live it. But it's a beautiful thing when you can, make money, enjoy your life, and it all comes together in a very nice way. And sometimes it's hard. Society doesn't really give you the path to achieve that goal all the time. and you have to figure it out. And sometimes you have to go around people. You have to go around your family because they're like, hey, maybe you should stay in Helsinki and just get a job and go to school and make it work. And you're like, nah, I'm going to go surf in Bali and end up in Australia. So sorry, guys.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's the thing too. And I feel like in Finland as well, it's a big thing that you have to go to university. You have to get yourself a degree so you can get good money and live a good life. But it's more, I was kind of stuck. I feel like, is this what life is? I don't know if I want this. I feel like there's more to life, and that's what also got me to traveling. I wanted to go out and see what's out there, like live in the beach by the palm trees and be under the sun, and that's what I felt like. That was what made me to travel, and how I ended up here.
Yeah. It's regardless of the motivation, everybody's a little different, but you find your way. I always just thought, living in America, I was like, this can't be what life is like. We're a country of 350 million Americans. Everybody, for the most part, is telling me how great this country is, while most of them have not spent lots of time other places. And my motivation was like, I just want to see. I don't necessarily, like, it doesn't have to be sunshine. It doesn't have to be, really cheap or the best food. I just want to go and see what's going on. I want to see what's real. And through that, I really found out that, like, the biggest impacts for me and the biggest part of what makes a nation or a country or an island or a region is the people. And whatever religion these people are, whatever their background is, their character and their priorities of family, that always leads to good community in my mind. And I think family is number one. Shout out to my family. Love you guys. Is just such a motivating force, because you have people that no matter what happens to you, no matter where you go, they think about you, they care about you, and vice versa, you do as well. But sometimes you got to go out on your own and live your own life so that you can be a better version and a more well-rounded version than where you came from.
Yes, and I feel like sometimes when you're surrounded by the same people, same environment all the time, there's no room for you to grow anymore. And when you go by yourself to travel and meet new people, that kind of gives you more space to be the person you want to be, like you said. So, like, I wouldn't be this person if I stayed in Finland. Like, absolutely, I was absolutely different person from what I am now.
Yeah. I can imagine.
Not absolutely, but like heaps.
Yeah. I say sometimes I'm not different, but I'm more of myself.
Yes.
It's like little kids and little babies. They have a personality. Nobody taught them to have that personality. And over time, it's almost like they lose some of it, and they start having to be, I need to be more like this so that I can fit into this community and that I can fit into this job role.
Yes.
And they kind of lose a little bit of who they were, and that's where we have to find the balance, because obviously you have to be professional at times and you have to be a quote unquote adult. But man, it's so much fun being a kid. It's so much fun not worrying about things and just we'll deal with it tomorrow, because it's always going to be okay. But I guess you just have to believe in yourself that you'll be able to figure it out. And if you have confidence in yourself, then maybe you don't worry about things so much.
And that's the thing. I believe we all have the same potential, but a lot of us think that they themselves limit themselves. So it's all about just trusting yourself and not overthinking, like, can I do it or can I not do it? Because that keeps you trapped also in your head. Just go for it and do it, and you'll be surprised, like, wow, I've come so far.
Yeah. You've never done anything until you've done it. And the first time you did it probably wasn't great, but you can learn and you can grow. And all of a sudden you can start teaching people and showing people that, hey, you could even do it better than I did it.
Yeah. Yeah, and what a beautiful people you've met during the travels and learned from them too. And imagine.
I can't imagine my life still in America the whole time, I think things would have been fine, because like I said, everything's going to be fine, everything works out, but I think I would be a much different person. And
for sure.
I feel very thankful. I have so much love and appreciation for all my friends back home, for all my friends abroad. And it's not, we're not done. We're still learning. There's so much more potential with all my friends. A lot of them now have transitioned off of, just traveling long term, and they're trying to figure out how to start their own businesses, or they already have some small businesses that they're running, and trying to find a balance between living this free, open lifestyle and at the same time, building financial stability for the future. They're just doing it in different countries or in different jobs that they wouldn't normally have access to. They had to create it themselves.
Yeah, and I feel like this whole COVID has affected people in a lot of ways, especially being in lockdown. Last year when I was 2 months without work, I thought about a lot, like what's important for me, what do I want for my life, and then I feel like a lot of people have reflected on themselves and thought like about life and where they are at and where they want to be. And I feel like when everything starts to get a bit more normal, it's going to be a different kind of world, hopefully.
I hope that we definitely learn lessons from this experience and, be more sympathetic and understanding and care about our neighbors. Because, if we don't learn something significant from this experience, we're really like, it was for nothing,
Yes.
Yeah.
But I'm sure everybody has.
Yeah, I believe so. I've seen it. I've seen a lot of friends and family grow and mature. And I'm looking forward to more of it. I think we got a lot of opportunity here, and I hope we take advantage of it. Yeah. All right, Mirka. Well, thank you so much. This has been a pleasure. Is there anything else you want to share with anybody before I let you go?
Not really. No? Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for putting yourself out there. Thanks for making the time for this. I appreciate it so much. And to everybody listening, I hope you enjoyed the episode. We got plenty more to come, and we'll talk to you next time.